Before we begin this video topic, I'm going to tell you guys a quick little story. At least I'll try to make it quick anyway. So I'm feeling pretty good this morning. Or is it afternoon? I don't know. I think it's probably closer to afternoon. On this Sunday, September the 19th, I woke up feeling great because I had a great dream. Yes, so I had a great dream. So someone came to me in my dream. My crush came to me in my dream. And this is not unusual. It happens. Actually, dreaming for me is not unusual. I have dreams like on a regular basis. Like every time I fall asleep, I usually dream. I grew up having nightmares, but that's a different story. I still do have nightmares though, but not as frequent. But I had a dream last night about a crush. And it was funny because we were like dating, right, in the dream. And the crush, by the way, I'm not going to say who it is, but we actually met. We met like recently, I'll say that. And in the dream, he was meeting my family. And, you know, I was trying to like immerse him like in the world of my family culture. And so I remember getting like anxious. And why do women do this, yo? I know men say they don't like women who nag, right? But I think I figured it out. I think the nagging comes from a sense of unease, right? Or anxiety. And so even like in the dream, yo, I was like unease. I had a sense of unease. And it was, I don't think that it comes out of nowhere. Because like guys was like, oh, women nag. I don't like women that nag. Da 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 da. But when you think about it, it comes from somewhere. What is the unease coming from? And this is what happened. So in the dream, we were like on our way to an event, a family event. But we were running late, and we were running late because he was nonchalant about getting there on time. And me, I'm like a very like on time person. Like I get there before time, right? And he was like the complete opposite. And it's always like that. You ever notice like when you're with someone, you're dating someone, you find like how you are is just like different than how the other person is, right? It's like that's why we complement each other, I guess. And so he was just dragging, taking his precious time, and I was just getting all riled up about it. It's funny though, in the dream. So I woke up laughing. Yeah, I tickled myself just thinking about that. When I woke up, I felt really good waking up, even though in the dream I was like all in a fluster because we were late. And I'm like, we're going to miss it. We were like 2 hours late. I'm like, by the time we get there, it's going to be over. Oh, this is funny. It's funny because I know myself. And this is funny because this has shown up in different relationships that I've been in. So it's funny. But it's also telling, though, because it takes me back to when I was a young child. I suffered, you guys, from panic disorder. And I mentioned this before. I made a whole video about surviving panic disorder, so you guys can go check that out when you get a chance. But yeah, I wasn't formally diagnosed, but this is how it went. So me and my sister, we would go visit my cousins in St. Augustine, like for the summer, and vice versa. They would come and visit us in Jacksonville, right? I lived in Jacksonville growing up. My cousins, which is my mom, sister, children, they lived in St. Augustine, which is where my mom was born, right? And so we were visiting them in St. Augustine, which is like only 30 minutes away from Jacksonville. And I had, like, this is when I had my first panic attack, yo. It was crazy. We were outside playing, and then all of a sudden, that's how it happens. It's just like all of a sudden out of nowhere, it's just, you know, shortness of breath and, you know, racing heartbeat and a feeling like you're gonna die. And this shit is so fucking real, yo. So I rushed to my grandmother's house, right, where we were staying at for the summer. I rushed to my grandmother's house and I'm like, Grandma, I'm about to die. I'm gonna die. And she was like, baby, you ain't gonna die. Lay down, lay down. So she went to the kitchen. It's like grandmothers always know how to take care of the children, right? Because they just seen it all. So she went to the kitchen and grabbed some, she made an ice pack. And she told me to lie down and she put it on my chest. And yo, that worked like magic. I wouldn't say it cured, but it was a form of a treatment, right? Like a little home remedy to treat my anxiety. And the panic attack went away. But then it didn't go completely away. They came back. It kept coming back. And so my grandmother called my my parents, right, who were in Jacksonville working. Called my parents and they were like, she was like, come get your daughter. I remember this conversation. She was like, come get, and I was in elementary school. I was young. I was a young girl. She was like, come get your daughter. I was like, what's going on? She was like, just come get her. So they rushed down there, yo, the same day, like right after they hung up the phone. They rushed down there, got me. I was fine though when they picked me up. But then the next day they went to work. It happened again. I had another panic. Like, why it keep coming back? I had another panic attack, yo. So I was rushed to the hospital. My sister, who was 3 years my senior, my mom told her to call my aunt on my dad's side, right? My paternal side. Aunt came and picked me up, rushed me to the hospital. They ran tests on me. I think it was an EKG, just blood tests. They run everything they could, right, to see like what the fuck is wrong with her. And they didn't find anything. This is the funny. They didn't find anything. It's like, what were they looking for? But they didn't find anything like medically, right? But this is a funny thing. And this is where I know that there was a gap in the system. But it worked out in my favor though, because had the doctor did refer me to like see a psychiatrist for an eval, yo, they probably would have put me on medication. I'm like, hell, fuck, nah. So after they ran the test, the doctor determined that, okay, there was no diagnosis, like he couldn't find anything medically. They ran tests, blood tests, and all these other things they attached to my freaking chest and monitor my heart rate and all this stuff. Couldn't find anything. And so it was like, you know, he was asking, he was like, so, was just trying to get an understanding like of my world, I guess, and how I perceive what happened. And I'm like, I don't know, but I know I oftentimes like think about things that I shouldn't be thinking about, like my heartbeat. I like focus on my heartbeat, and he's like, you're a young girl, you shouldn't be worrying about that. But anyway, he sent us on our way. It's just like, she's fine, nothing is wrong with her. But it was weird, yo. I had those panic attacks, yo. I had them like very often, and it basically was panic disorder because, you know, the determining factor of panic disorder is that you fear you're gonna have another panic attack. And so they went through, like, I went to college, I went to Florida State University, and I remember another panic attack. I'm about to get in the video, you guys, but I'm just telling a quick, cute story as it relates to my dream. And so I was working in the lab of my, the director of undergraduate studies. I worked in her lab, the director of undergraduate studies at Florida State for the psychology department. I worked as an assistant at her lab, like transcribing freaking interviews and inputting data into SPSS, which is the system, the program that psychologists use or researchers use to crunch numbers, analyze data, to run like statistical analyses, right? That was my job. And so we were in the lab having a meeting, a research team meeting, right? just to like discuss our progress, right? And then I had a panic attack. It's just out of nowhere. Nothing really triggered it. That's the thing about panic attacks. It's just like, well, perhaps maybe something could trigger it, right? Maybe something on a very subtle level. It could be considered like a trauma reaction, right? So it could be linked to something that maybe a person experienced early on, right? And then something in their immediate environment maybe triggers that reaction. Possibly, right? There's a lot of research on panic disorder and attacks and trauma and trying to find a link. But to my knowledge and my awareness and my surveying the environment and knowing that I've worked in the lab, like this was regular. I wasn't just like working in the lab just like once a month. No, this was like a regular position that I had, like maybe 3 days out the week. I was very familiar with my teammates. They were not strangers. They didn't pose a threat. It was no threat. It was nothing in the environment that screamed danger or even whispered danger for that matter. It was just out of nowhere, yo. Boom. I'm like, oh my gosh, not again. This just happened out of nowhere. So anybody who suffer from panic disorder or panic attacks, you know how embarrassing it is, right? It's embarrassing because it's just like you are the only one experiencing this. No one else knows what the fuck is going on with you. Like, it seems like you're tripping, right? Because people looking around, it's like, okay, there's nothing happening. It's no impending doom. Why is this person having this reaction, right? We're in a safe environment. So that's the embarrassing part about it. So I immediately, when I like sensed I was having the experiencing the symptoms, right? I took a beeline for the door. I ran out in the hallway and I was just crying, and I had my head down. I was just shaking, trembling, and nervous and afraid I was about to die. But I knew what I was having. I knew I was having a panic attack, and this was in college. So this was like, obviously I'm much older than what I was when I was in elementary school. And the doctor didn't know. And then one of my lab mates came out, white girl, obviously. You know, I was the only black person in that lab. And she came out to comfort me. And she asked me what was happening. And I told her, you know, I think I'm having a panic attack. And the funny thing about white people, yo, they know fucking psychology shit. You know what I'm saying? Even though, granted, this is a psychology lab, right? But even apart from that, it's just white people get it because they experience a lot of shit too, like psychological things that are going on. Black people do. It's not that we don't, but we don't have a name for it. We are ignorant to what it is, right? But white people know. Because they be seeing therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists and all of that. So it's like she knew. And she knew to like just fan me. She was fanning me, and that helped. That really did help. The fanning. It's like, I think the fanning is like a form of grounding. And you guys see where I burned my incense. So for you guys who are so anxious to get into the video, sometimes it makes me wonder, like, y'all are fiends. Y'all are cuckold fiends. Fiending for information. Like, I think it's like a psychological form of masturbation in a way. Wanting someone to stimulate you psychologically, masturbate with you psychologically on these topics, and you're fiending for you, like, just get into the video, I just want it, I need my fix. Y'all should, anybody watch me know that my videos really don't work that way, right? I just kind of go with the natural flow of things. My videos, I don't plan to like say what I'm going to say. It's just completely freestyle. I don't edit my videos. I don't filter. I just go with it. And going with the flow, I drop jewels along the way. But in that situation, it was just, it was scary. It's always scary. But guys, watch my video where I talk about surviving panic disorder. And yeah, I say surviving it because it's in control. Very much in control. The last, I would say, panic attack I had, I think was back in Los Angeles, but it wasn't full blown because I know like when it's happening, right? I know what's happening and I know how to ground myself in that, right? By oh my gosh, freaking bug. I know how to ground myself in the situation where I attend to something in my environment, right, visually, and I focus on my breathing. And then that's how I ground myself, you know. It's like coming back to reality, because perhaps panic attack, the experience of it is just like disassociating. In a way, it could be a form of disassociation, I think, because it's like what is happening in your environment. But with that being said, I do think I have like a special sense. Like, I know I do, because I tend to see things before they happen, and I also can smell death. If that makes sense. Not death when it's happened, but before it happens. Like the smell of death before someone dies. That shit is crazy, but I can smell it. So it's kind of fun having like special abilities, especially when you know what it is and you're in control of it. That's my little story for today. I didn't take that long, did it? I just think it's funny because just having that dream, it was just like, oh, it was such a sweet dream. And it also took me back to my last serious relationship, yo. I used to have fucking Hypnopompic, I think. What is the hallucinations that you have when you're waking up? I think it's called Hypnopompic. It's Hypnopompic and Hypnagogic hallucinations. Yeah, Hypnagogic is the experience of the transitional state from wakefulness to sleep. The hypnagogic state of consciousness during the onset of sleep. So as you're falling asleep. I used to have like Hypnopompic waking up. Like hallucinations when I'm waking up, yo. And my partner was like, what the fuck? I wake up and I be seeing like things crawling on the wall. And I'm just like, whoa. Out of my sleep. I wake up out of my sleep. But when I wake up, like I see these things on the wall. But it's almost like they say, transitional state, right? Because it's like I see these things in my sleep. So I'm dreaming about it. But even when I wake up, I still see it until I fully come to full consciousness. Yeah. The hypnopompic state is the state of consciousness leading out of sleep. A term coined by the physical researcher Frederick Myers. The hypnagogic state is rational, waking cognition trying to make sense of nonlinear images and associations. The hypnopompic state is emotional and credulous, dreaming cognition trying to make sense of real world. I guess that's what they assume. But anyway, let's get into this video. So, yesterday, the thought came across my mind to follow up with an email that I did receive recently from someone who was responding, I think, to a video I made on... I see you guys left and came back. Welcome. I guess you're not interested in in my tall tales, but they're real tales, though, by the way. And I guess you saw the video where I talked about the real reason why white men become cuckolds. I think I entitled it. And he sent this email 5 days ago, September 14th. 5:41. I wonder where he's located. 5:41. You up that early? early thinking about fucking Cuckold, or are you in a different time zone? And I put it to the side, right? I get so many emails. So, given that he sent this 5 days ago, what I did, this morning actually. I thought about it yesterday, but then I came back this morning and I searched my email, Cuckold, right? I typed in the word Cuckold to find his email. Because I get so many freaking emails. And guess what? When I typed in the word Cuckold, of course his email came up at the top because it was just sent 5 days ago. I am Cuckold and I really love this lifestyle. What do you love about it so much? And so when I did that, his email came up, but other emails came up. And I'm scrolling through, my inbox, and I'm just like, wow, these are a lot of freaking Cuckold emails that I have not addressed. Many came through back in 2020. I'm like, what was I doing back in 2020? Well, I moved back to New York in 2020. And I was staying at different Airbnbs just for fun. Not that I had to, but just to explore New York. That's what I was doing. And then I eventually signed a lease. I'm like, all right, let me just go ahead and sign a lease. Found a place here in the Upper East Side and signed a lease. But yeah, I'm like, whoa, some of these emails are pretty interesting. And I remember some, as I was reading them today, rereading them, I'm like, I remember reading this. And then some, I'm like, I don't remember reading this. So I had to completely ignore it, apparently. Yeah, because I guess what it is like when you get inundated with so many emails, of the same topic, it's just like, okay, here's another Cuckold email, right? So I just put it on pause. But I have so many unread Cuckold emails that, wow, it makes for good video topic discussion. So I am going to read two. This one that was sent 5 days ago, and another that was sent on August 9th, 2020 at 4:11 from a black man, right? It's like, whoa. I'm amazed, I guess, because I'm just like, the demand for Cuckold is so fucking high, and why do y'all think that I am the expert at this? I know there are other people who talk about cuckolding, and y'all just want to put me in the position to continue talking about this. But anyway, let's go with it. So this is the one that was sent 5 days ago. He says, hi, I just wanted to suggest that for me, I like the way he starts the email, for me, right? Because he could have came off as an asshole and been like, you're wrong. That's not the reason why I like Cuckold or we like Cuckold. It's just like, listen, you guys know this is a matter of perspective, right? So when I come to you guys and I'm saying something, I'm giving you guys my take on this, my take on it, right? My perspective. Instead of saying, if you disagree, instead of saying, oh, I disagree, the way if you want to have a back and forth conversation, and this is how you know people who are skilled at conversation, right? Versus people who aren't, because people who aren't, right? When people disagree or present opposing perspective than their own, they're like, you're wrong. I disagree. You don't even have to say you disagree. I feel like that goes without saying. You can just say, according to how I feel, right? It opens the floor up, right? So that, first of all, the person who you're disagreeing with doesn't become defensive. You don't want me to become defensive, do you? No, because you want to engage in conversation with me. We're not here to debate. I am not about to debate anyone here. I just don't do debates. But I do intellectual stimulating conversations. So you don't have to mention the word, oh, I disagree, or you're wrong, right? You can just say, well, from my perspective, So I like the way he said, I just wanted to suggest that for me, he's offering a suggestion, a different perspective, which I was very receptive to, right? And so now we can begin to go deeper into why white men are drawn to the cuckold lifestyle. Go deeper, we begin to broaden the perspective, because yes, for you guys who saw my video on the real reason why white men become cuckolds, you see that's really only one perspective. I really love this lifestyle. The thrill of your partner is making love to a stranger in front of your eyes and looking into your eyes while gasping on each stroke. It's a mesmerizing experience which cannot be explained in words. Where are you from? Yo, you give me like Indian vibes. Where are you from? Your name and your picture kind of gives like Indian vibes. So I'm curious to explore because I just like to study behavior. I like to study just like alternative things or alternative lifestyle. Just things that kind of contradict the norm. So I'm with it. So some people asking me about this. I've been wondering. This is a NYPD mug. No, I don't work for the NYPD. I did interview with them for a position, full-time position. I interviewed with them like several months ago for a psychologist position that was very decent pay. But I didn't get good vibes. And granted, I've worked in the prison system, right? And that's a whole different culture. It's different, just different culture. But, yeah, policing is a different culture. I would have been doing like evals, fitness for duty evaluations for the police officers who had gotten into some trouble or were in high profile case situations. But, and I, like, listen, I got, like, the people who I interviewed with, right? And it was, like, high-level fucking people in NYPD. Can't say any names, but they were cool. But I got a sense, like, okay, you know how, I'm just gonna say this real quick. You know how, like, there's, like, the book way to do things, right? And then there was, like, another way to do it. I got the sense like, okay, they were trying to see if I would do things by the book or do things by, you know. And I'm just like a very straightforward, honest person. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you should be able to see that. Like, I kind of do things according to the book. Especially being fresh out of fucking a graduate program. So, rookie, right? But, yeah. I got the sense. Like, I read body language. I'm like, yeah. They were giving me, like, training day vibes. I was just like, I ain't co-signing none of that bullshit y'all motherfucking be doing, you know. But, no, we had it was a good interview, like, good conversation. But I didn't like that they asked me, was I vaccinated? Nah, buddy. So they felt like they had to wear a mask because I wasn't vaccinated. But anyway, let's get back. So, I do like NYPD. Like, I like, you know, they cool. Them motherfuckers be fine. Some of them motherfuckers be fine as shit. So that's where I got the mug. But he says, I just wanted to suggest that for me, the appeal is in taking ownership. Yo, we're gonna go into this deep. We're gonna go into this deep. Now, this person I think may be Latino, just based on his name. He says, the appeal is in taking ownership of my jealous feelings in an effort to cope with seeing women as complete sexual beings. So So I like that he said that, right? He said it that way. It's just like, okay. And I think he was thinking about what I may be thinking, which he probably seen my videos, obviously. So he knows what I may be thinking. And that shit don't make no fucking sense, right? Because let's be honest. People like to say, oh, I want to see my partner happy. People are not that selfless, though. People are like, come on, yo. Can we be honest? I want to see my partner happy. So I think he knew that I would be like, nah, I ain't buying that shit, right? He says that the appeal is in taking ownership of my jealous feelings. So he put it from his perspective, not in a sense that, okay, I'm doing it for her, but he's saying for himself to take ownership of his feelings, right? That's a level of maturity. Something that you challenge yourself. You recognize that, okay, you have this sense of insecurity, right? No matter what it's stemming from, but you acknowledge it, you identify it. And then you want to control it. You want to take ownership of it. In an effort to cope with seeing women as complete sexual beings. Right? So those are two different things. He says he connects us to by saying that the appeal is in taking ownership of his jealous feelings. But then he says, in an effort to cope with seeing women as complete sexual beings. I see those as two separate things when you think about it. Coping with women as complete sexual beings. Yeah. Giving that credit to women, right? Because men apparently can just do what they want to do. It's a man's world, right? Men are not penalized for being sexually promiscuous, walking proudly in their sexual freedom. Whereas women, it's a different story, right? We're all sexual beings, but women are ridiculed for being a sexual being, right? So he's acknowledging that. Kudos to him. He's acknowledging that women are complete sexual beings. To cope, he says, an effort to cope with seeing women as such, right? Because obviously men have not been conditioned to see women as complete sexual beings. Let me know what your thoughts are as I'm saying this. But yeah, historically men have not been conditioned to view women as complete sexual beings. We're looked at as objects to be used by complete sexual beings, complete in terms of the wholeness, right? We're not just our vagina. That's only one aspect of who we are. That's only a part of who we are, right? That's not like, but men often objectify women when they refer to women like, you know, you just kind of only see neck down. You don't even have a head. You just have neck down, the breasts, our vagina, what's between our legs. Even black conscious leaders make the mistake of objectifying women. I'm not even going to go into that shit, right? The whole slogan, consciousness over cookies. Like, are you kidding me? Can you just say women? But I get you gotta have to make a catchy phrase. But anyway. Jealous feelings being attached to seeing women as complete sexual beings. Jealous. He mentioned jealous. So then he goes into saying, how does this benefit me? Because you got to make it make sense, right? Yeah. So you got to talk about how it benefits you. You got to make it make sense. Because if you're saying, oh, you're just doing it, just view women as complete sexual beings. Okay, that's paying homage to women. And then addressing your jealous feelings. And then he says, by letting go of traditional sexual tropes within our patriarchal society. Letting it go. That's a benefit to you, by letting the traditional sexual tropes that our patriarchal society has embraced, has popularized. He says, I am more free to date or commit myself to someone without trying to build them up as a saint. In my mind, when I know very well that I am not either. Whoa, that's a lot. Yo, listen, it's only like 3 lines here in this email. It's a very short email, but it's a lot being said in just those 3 phrases, three sentences, right? It's a lot. That's a lot. Whoa. I think he's still wrestling with this, though. Clearly, because he says, I'm still processing my affinity for this kink. But that's what I have so far. Okay, it makes sense. It makes sense. So he's still in the transition phase, right? If we could, because within everything, right? Within race, sex, gender, even within there's developmental stages, right? There is identity development happening. We're all going through stages of identity development in many different spheres of our life. Racial identity development, right? That was what my dissertation was on. There's gender identity development, right? Sexuality identity development could be another type of development, right? Different phases that we go through. I feel like it can be a very frustrating position to be in when you're still kind of wrestling with who you are in that aspect of your life in terms of your sexual identity. Because, I mean, it really, in any identity, right? When you're kind of transitioning through the phases, it can be very frustrating. Because you are evolving, you're changing, and you're letting go, like he says, you're letting go the traditional tropes. You're letting go what was, because you're faced with new information that forces you. It forces you to question previously held beliefs that really no longer make sense. When you're presented with new information, and also when you begin to mature, when you're going through this maturity process, right, in your normal development as a person. But I would like to ask him, because I know it has to be something. It's more than just him getting older, right? We know that could obviously have an influence on our behavior, changes within our behavior, just naturally getting older, right? But what was it though? Something. What was it that made you sit back and just review your life, right? It's like a life review. And you're changing. I'm more free to date or commit myself to someone without trying to build them up as a saint. So it's like, on one hand, you're saying that you want to appreciate women as complete sexual beings, right? You're kind of glorifying this idea of sexual freedom, but meanwhile, you're still wrestling with the possibility that the sexual freedom underneath that could be a sense of debauchery evil. Because you mentioned saint. For you to bring in saint, there's an undertone here that you're still holding those beliefs of right or wrong. That's what he says. He's still processing his affinity for this kink. He's still wrestling with it. Now, the second email I'm going to read, interesting, y'all. It's interesting. And I chose this one because I felt like the second email I'm going to read you guys, I chose it, especially after reading this email that was sent 5 days ago. I chose to discuss it with juxtaposed against this because I think it adds more depth to what this person is saying here in this email. And it shows the different stages of sexuality development, right? This guy here is in the very early stage of his sexual identity development as it relates to his affinity towards cuckolding. The next email I'm going to read you guys, this guy is a bit further along in his identity development. But I think he still has some questions. Like no one, I think, reaches complete self-actualization, right? We all are still, no matter what point we are at in our lives, in our understanding of self, we still struggle with things, right? So, this person here, the second email I'm going to read you guys was sent August 9th, 2020, last year. The title of it says, Stag, not Cuckold. So we're going to go a bit deeper. He says, hey Danny, showing love from Miami. I love what you do and how you educate. He has like the emoji like this and then the fist. He says, I am a black male, 28, and consider myself a stag, not necessarily a cuckold. Now, he wrote a lot. This email is a bit more lengthy than the previous one I just read you guys. He says, there are differences which I could gladly explain later. There is a growing community of African Americans in the lifestyle. Whether they identify as cuckolds / hot wives, stag / vixen, swingers, or poly, they exist. I discovered this when I found myself going through a paradigm shift following a breakup. I love it when people have insight. Granted, like I was saying, the first email I read you guys, he's still trying to wrap his mind around it, and I did just pose a question, like I wonder what kind of triggered the shift, right, in his thinking. But he's still processing it. He's still processing it. It's good to continue to process. Good job. Continue processing. This smoothie is so good, y'all. All right. So he knows. He tells us that. He discovered this when he found himself going through a paradigm shift following a breakup. So he knows the point in time that he experienced this paradigm shift, and he's 28 years old. Much insight. Now, let's continue reading. This is great, y'all. This is great. I love this. All right. I kept trying to put myself in my ex's shoes to try to understand why she kept cheating on me throughout the relationship. Notice cheating. The word cheating here. Going back to the first email, he mentioned jealous feelings. Do y'all see that there possibly could be a connection? Cheating, jealousy, cuckold. cheating, jealousy, cuckold. He mentioned, this is the first email I read, you guys, that the appeal is in taking ownership of his jealous feelings, right? Coming to a point of acceptance, right? When we talk about the stages of change, at some point you come to a point of acceptance. But many people are stuck in the denial phase. Interesting. He gives us the scoop, y'all. This email right here. This black man from Miami gives us the scoop. He says, this is so much tea right here he's giving us. He says, I kept trying to put myself in my ex's shoes to try to understand why she kept cheating on me throughout the relationship. We were young, and I know she loved me, but she equally loved getting new dick. New in capital letters, all caps. New dick! He says, we had moments of honesty, and she kept it real. She literally told me that she likes the excitement of it and that every guy feels and performs differently. I finally manned up and decided I couldn't accept being hurt like that. So I ended things. You had to end it because you gotta like take a step back and kind of make sense of it, right? And I think this is his way of making sense of it so that he protects himself. And it's good that he put himself in her shoes because that's how you understand the motivations for why people do what they do. You got to remove yourself, right? Because if you are stuck in the way you see things, then you'll be so quick to, first of all, feel victimized immediately. You feel victimized. You feel under attack. You feel targeted. Like, oh, they did this because you are bad, right? When no, they did it because of them. So that allow you to work through those jealous feelings that you have, those insecure feelings that you have. You see how that works? When you begin to really process it in a healthy way that makes sense, that's beneficial for you in an insightful way. You could tell he did the work. I don't know if he came to this realization through the help of someone else, maybe a therapist, or maybe just himself. Sometimes it's just, that's all it takes. It's just a matter of thinking things through with a rational mind. He says, so I ended things. He says, it stayed in the back of my mind for months. And years to come. We had female, male, female threesomes. So they had threesomes where they brought in another woman. And she always asks, when am I going to invite another guy? But of course, I wasn't down for that. I'll keep it 100. I watch porn to be inspired or to find a new kink, and Cuckold found me. I couldn't believe husbands would actually record their wives being fucked. It didn't make any sense! Exclamation mark. So, remember I've said this, you guys, that people try to explain away their alternative behaviors, right? By saying, oh, I watch porn, and I got inspired from watching videos, right? Porn videos. But what is it? See, I said this recently. What is it about something within you that drew you to that type of porn? Do you guys see it? He say, And when he was watching porn to try to find a new kink, Cuckold found him, right? Cuckold found him because it resonates with him, right? He's drawn to this. That's just how the law of attraction works. It resonated with him. And I tell you guys about the story on how I discovered BDSM. Right? And then watching bondage videos. It's just like you watch it, it's something that resonates within you because there are many different types of porn. So you can't just like, oh, well, I came across this video and then, no, the video did it to me. The video is what drew me in. No. It was already in you. You just resonated with what was in the video. But it was already in you. Watching the video didn't put that affinity towards cuckolding in you. It was already in you. You then sought out things that resonate with what's in you. Then you have to go a little bit further and ask yourself the question, what is it about me, though, that resonates with this type of video? What is it? Why do I like this so much? And it makes sense because he's been in a relationship where he became a cuckold by accident, right? I mean, I say by accident in the sense that it wasn't really consensual. She was cheating on him, right? Cheating is betrayal. So let's be clear. That's not consensual. Cheating is not consensual. That's betrayal because there are an agreed set of terms that both people in the relationship agree to abide by. One person breaks those terms, goes out behind the other person's back, steps out of that relationship. He had to end it. I see why he ended it, because it's wrong, right? It's betrayal. It's betrayal. You lied. You're pretending to be something that you're not. You're pretending to be honest, faithful, committed when you're not, right? But like he said, that he wrestled with it for months, right? It stayed in the back of his mind for months and years to come. And they even had male-female threesomes where they invited another woman into their relationship. And then she asks, when am I going to invite another guy? But of course, he wasn't down for that. He says, I'll keep it 100. I watch porn, so we were talking about that. And then how Cuckold found him. And then he couldn't believe husbands would actually record their wives being fucked. It didn't make any sense. Yet for some reason, it was turning him on. Why did it turn him on? Because you guys got to go back. I said this is my first time reading this email, yo. I said, and granted, this was sent August 9th, 2020. When did I make my first video, yo, on cuckolding? When did, y'all gotta go back. Go back. Let's pull it up. When did I make this video where I talked about playlists? Cuckold. Yo, go back to my first video. Listen, I broke it down here. Look, I made it June 11th, 2019, yo. I called this shit before this person even sent this email. He sent this email August 9th, 2020. I made my very first cuckold video June 11th, and I had already said, yo, I said what it was. I put my finger on it, and I said what draws men to it. From a psychological perspective, from a psychoanalytic perspective. Go back and watch that video. Cuckold Men. It has 34,000 views and counting. But I said it. I said what he's saying here before he even sent this email. Yo, give your girl some credit. I'm telling you, yo. I knew it. But it's kind of like a no-brainer, though, when you think about it. It's a no-brainer. We ask ourselves, like, why are we turned on by certain things, right? Why are we attracted to certain kinds of people? Because the characteristics within them remind us of the characteristics in someone else who we loved. That someone else could be a former romantic partner, or it could be a family member, a caretaker. But there is always a connection, yo. It's about connecting the dots. Yo, connecting the dots. You gotta connect the dots. That's how you begin to know why. And this guy in the first email said he's still processing it. Yeah, and it's amazing though when you have that epiphany, right? When you have that aha moment. And you're like, oh my gosh. Because it feels so comforting to know yourself, to know why. All right, let's continue. He says, I couldn't believe husbands would actually record their wives being fucked. It didn't make any sense. Yet, for some reason, it was turning me on. And you know why it was turning you on? Because you already been down that road before with your ex-girlfriend who you loved. And who loved you. He said, it consumed me. Is this what women really want? I never knew women could be so ravenous. Yo. Ravenous? I don't think that's the right word, right? But it is the right word for him, though. Ravenous? Greedy? Hungry? It's... Alright. And if that's what she like, who am I to stop her? I learned to become more open-minded to a woman's needs. I can't be selfish and ask for a male-female threesome if I can't give her a male-female threesome. I want to be fair to my queen and explore our sexuality together. Aha, do you guys see the connection here? What he's saying is he's fleshing it out. The second email guy is fleshing it out more from what the first guy who sent this email, the first email I read, is saying. And you guys see, like, that's how true intimacy works, right? That's how you know a man has reached a degree of maturity, because he sees that his sexual satisfaction, the fulfillment of his sexual satisfaction, right, is still dependent upon his partner. In a sense that if you can make your partner happy, and when I say make a person happy, I'm using those words very loosely because I already talked about you can't make anyone happy necessarily, right? You can contribute to their internal state of happiness, but happiness really comes from within. That's a whole different philosophical discussion there. I don't really want to go too deep with that, right? But for the sake of understanding the way you guys understand making your partner happy, it's like doing certain things, right, that bring them satisfaction. He understands, he has at least reached the point of his sexual maturity or development where he understands that in him acknowledging a woman as a complete sexual being, right, it validates who he is. Because it's a contradiction to say that, oh, men are sexual beings, but then women aren't allowed to live out their sexuality. It doesn't make any sense, right? You got to make it make sense. So he's come to those terms, and he's also come to the term of understanding that for him to reach a level of sexual satisfaction, it only makes sense that his partner is also sexually satisfied. That is maturity. A lot of y'all ain't there yet. You just ain't there. I don't know if you ever will get there, but you're not there. Okay, so going back to the second email, he says, I want to be fair to my queen and explore our sexuality together. Yes, it's a whole nother level of ecstasy in doing so. You're talking about love, reciprocation in love. See, y'all ain't reached that yet. He says, this can't be accomplished if there is no trust. Absolutely. A relationship full of jealousy, right? Jealousy, insecurity. And it really comes from a misinterpretation, right? When a person is like jealous or insecure. When you go to the root, oftentimes you look at their frame of mind, you'll see that there's error in their thinking. There's irrationality in their thinking that's causing them to feel, right, to conjure up these feelings of insecurity and jealousy. That needs to be dealt with, right? Those irrational fears or irrational thoughts that they're thinking about what motivates their partner, right, to want to have sex with other people outside of their relationship. They assume like, oh, well, it must mean that I'm inadequate, I'm not enough. That's an irrational thought. You could be more than enough, right? But it goes back to, because you ask yourself, okay, well, where did that irrational thought come from? Where did that come from? How did they come to think that their partner cheating or their partner desiring to have sex with other people outside of their relationship is a byproduct of something that they're lacking, right? Where do they get that from? Why do people think that? It's because of how they've been conditioned in our society. A lot of the way we've been taught, what we've been taught, needs to be undone. There's so much work there that needs to be undone. It's got to be rewired, you know. A lot of rewiring needs to take place. Because obviously it has resulted in a very high divorce rate. People are very misguided when it comes to relationships. Very. If only. I'm taking a pause there because it's just like, as much suffering as people have gone through in relationships, like, they don't have to really go through that, right? The separation, divorce, like, if only we could come with a rational mindset. Logical. On both sides. That makes sense. And reach a level of sexual maturity, right? That suffering wouldn't even have to take place. He's doing it on the back end, though, right? Like he said, after ending that relationship with the woman who cheated on him, right? Did she cheat her? I mean, she already had those desires. She just acted upon those desires that was already inherent within her, right? Which he didn't quite understand. He wanted her to engage in female-male, female threesomes, which she apparently did, but he refuted the idea, right, of engaging in female-male threesomes with her, inviting another man into their relationship. Now, isn't it ironic though? Because he ended that I get why he ended it, right? Because, you know, he felt betrayed, or he felt like, okay, she just stepped out and did something without my consent, right? But let's say that if he had the level of maturity that he has now, with the way he sees sexuality. Now, if he had that in his relationship that he ended, would it have ended? It's a good question. It makes you wonder. People always, after the fucking fact, go back, right? And it's just, a lot could have been saved. But going forward, though, at least he knows, right? Which takes me back to a previous discussion that I had with another viewer who lives in the UK. I did a whole series on cuckolding in the UK. And he is in a position where he is with a woman he's been with for about like a decade. An Asian woman. He's a white man. And he wants to convince her to engage in this lifestyle. Do you see this, right? Do you see this? He wants to give his partner, I want to say wife, I keep want to say wife because they've been together for so long, right? He wants to give his wife, his partner, permission to fuck other men, and she's like, no. Meanwhile, you got people ending relationships because their partner went out and fucked other people. Y'all see this? The circle of life. Alright. A relationship full of jealousy is not one fit for the lifestyle. I found Reddit posts and other individuals like me and realized that I might have gone through sexual trauma in my past relationship. Clearly, yeah. And this is how my mind is coping or making sense of it. Bingo! I talked about this in my very first Cuckold video that I made June 11th, 2019. This guy sent this email. I have to keep reiterating this because, listen, I already called it out. And this is coming from someone who doesn't have any direct experience in the lifestyle of cuckolding. However, I do study behavior, relationships. So, I know. Of course it has a lot to do with that. Think about it. It's like, so now all of a sudden you're just desiring to be cuckold. You just all out of nowhere. Considering you did have a previous relationship you were involved with. A woman you loved. Who did this to you. That's your way of reconciling in your own mind. To go forward to say that you want to create a dynamic in a relationship with a woman, right, going forward, and you reconcile this to say it's okay. That is your way of telling your ex-girlfriend, right? Though y'all not gonna be together, right? Like, that's the past. You ended that, right? But in the hopes of meeting someone else, maybe like your ex-girlfriend. I mentioned this so many times. People live vicariously through their current relationship. They live like you are living out past relationships vicariously through your current relationships. We do this. So when people talk about, oh, I don't want to date someone with baggage. The fuck? We all got baggage. When people say that, you got to take a look at them to see, okay, what is the baggage that they are bringing? Because for them to say they don't want to date someone who has baggage, then they are subconsciously aware that they have baggage that they're bringing into that relationship. We all have baggage. Baggage is just the psychological remnants of past relationships that lives with us in our DNA. Our DNA is our mind. Our mind is our DNA. It lives with us. Him desiring to be, he says stag, so we're going to get into the differentiation between stag and cuckold, right? He says he's not a cuckold. I feel like that's a way of saying, like, it's a bougie way of being a cuckold. I'm not a cuckold, I'm a stag. But yeah, for his desire to be a stag or a cuckold is like him coming to terms with his past relationship, the trauma that he, experienced. And it's traumatic for a man to be cheated on, right? Even though men want to do female, male, female threesomes, bring in another woman, right? Getting their needs met. They can't wrap their minds, they have difficulty wrapping their minds around a woman's sexual desires. And now in hindsight, which is always 2020, he gets it. But he's no longer with her. So now he has to hope that he can recreate. Now granted, he sent this email August 9th, 2020. I don't know if he's in a relationship, but it sounds like he's hoping to kind of recreate what he had, but doing it in a right way, right? And so he says, have you heard of anything like that, or am I just tripping? I did not respond. I'm just now responding to his email, yo. Like I said, August 9th, that was like a month before I started my pre-doc internship. That was a couple months before I moved into my new apartment. So yeah, I was going through a lot. But he attaches these two images. I guess he found it from the internet, whatever. That makes a differentiation between Vixen and Stag. Vixen, a shared hot wife who does not degrade or humiliate her husband. Instead, she uses her play to turn him on. Stag, a man who likes to share and show off his wife without humiliation. It turns him on to see her receive pleasure. It seems like a more sophisticated way of being, right? And then another picture has like a chart with a list of stag and hot wife games. And then it draws a comparison and a differentiation between cuckold and stag. So, reading through the list of different games or activities that a stag and hot wife may engage in, it talks about the difference between if a cuckold will participate in this versus the stag, right? For the most part, it's the same, right? But the differences lie when it comes to will fuck his girl with another guy. Cuckold, no. Stag, yes. Another difference. Will lick other guys come from his girl pussy. Listen, I find it so disgusting when people send me email and I don't even. I got so many emails from guys who like, and it goes good until they get to that point, and they're talking about their motivations for, their affinity toward, and they start talking about cleaning up the. I'm like, save me! I don't want to hear that. Because the way my mind works, so I have a very imaginative mind, right? And even with very few words, my mind creates a picture. I begin to see it, I begin to smell it, I begin to taste it, and I'm just like, no! Alright. Another differentiation between cuckold and stag is that, so with that activity, the cleanup part, It says yes for Cuckold, no for Stag. Stags don't do that. Ew. And then another activity here is allow himself to be humiliated by his girl and or her bull. Humiliation. Yes for Cuckold, no for Stag. They don't want to be humiliated, which makes sense. They want to have a sense of consent and control in that relationship. It's like cuckolds just be with the shit, right? Degradation, humiliation. Stags are like, no, they have a little bit more decorum about themselves and more self-respect. But to each his own. Let me know what you guys find interesting about these two emails and what I discussed here in this video. You know, people who have emailed me, and I've gotten so many emails. Yeah, I could read them now. I can just skim through them now. I'm not going to do that. Maybe another video. But I've gotten so many that I have not addressed, that I have not read here. So many emails. And for the ones that I have read, you guys see there are different ways that people have experienced this cuckold lifestyle. Different ways it plays out. But when you look at the different ways, there are dots that can be connected. It begins to make sense, right? To flesh it out and understanding this lifestyle. And that's what I like to bring to you guys. Understanding for something that can seem so taboo. I talked about my proclivity towards BDSM, being a submissive baby girl, wanting to be put in bondage and beaten. Of course, there's a link to my childhood, growing up in a household with a very strict mother and very permissive father, loving, right? Stern though. My dad had his way of being in control, but he didn't need to pick up any weapon to do it. It was more psychological, whereas my mom was very physical. With her discipline, stripping, making us strip down to our underwear, literally lie across the bed and be beaten. A whole beating session, yo. And so, yeah, that shit has been deeply encoded in my DNA. To the point where, yo, I be having, like, cravings. Like, I find myself like, dang. I want to be in so bad. Yo, it's been a minute since I got a good beating. My ex, though, he was with the shits. He was with the shits. Shit felt so fucking good, yo. To the point where, yeah, like, I like to get beat to the point where, like, it hurts really bad and I cry. But the tears are a release. It's very cathartic. And I do crave that. It's funny, yo. As I come to an end with this video, look. Always on time, because my incense is going out. On time. I'm very intuitive, I'm telling you. But share your thoughts below. Let us know what you guys think about what's said here. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.